A few years back, we started our show to help others interested in exploring the Pacific Northwest and eventually the rest of the world.
Inspired by the spirit of the Negro Motorist Green Book, we wanted to be a valuable resource to Black and BIPOC travelers while connecting them to some of the most amazing places.
What's unique about our show is not only do we showcase spectacular destinations, but we also rate our experiences for how comfortable we felt visiting as Black travelers.
In every episode right here, we will show you some of those destinations as well as their comfort rating. I'm Anthony Love.
And I'm Marley Love. Come along with us on
Traveling While Black.
Hey, what's up? It's Anthony and Marley Love, and welcome to another episode of Traveling While Black.
Yes, I have one question for you. Have you heard of the Galapagos Islands? Chances are you probably have, but if you haven't, don't worry, because this episode is perfect for you.
Because on this episode, we're taking you to the country of Ecuador, which is the country that lays claim to the iconic Galapagos Islands.
And also in this episode, we will take you to a retreat in the rainforest of Ecuador. This episode is very nature forward, but as we always say, nature loves Black people.
Also, we'll be showing you some travel tips as well as showing your travels traveling while Black.
And of course, we'll let you know how comfortable we felt as Black travelers visiting these unique destinations. And without further ado, let's get into it.
The biodiverse Galapagos Islands are situated a little over 600 miles off the coast of Ecuador. They are comprised of 127 islands, 13 that are major, and only 4 that are inhabited by humans. Each has its own unique ecosystem that include an exotic confluence of ocean currents and volcanic landscapes.
The biodiversity is attributed in large part to the variety of creatures that have adapted to this unique environment, many of which are endemic to the islands. The most iconic are referred to as the Big 15.
The Big 15 are as follows: the Galapagos albatross, the blue-footed booby, the red-footed booby, the Nazca booby, the Galapagos penguin, the flightless cormorant, the American flamingo, frigate birds, Galapagos sea lions, Galapagos fur seals, the Galapagos hawk, the marine iguana, the land iguana, the Santa Fe land iguana, and of course, the famous giant Galapagos tortoises.
The Galapagos Islands aren't the only biodiverse area belonging to the country of Ecuador. Mainland Ecuador itself has a wide range of ecosystems, from the Andean highlands to the Amazon rainforest.
One rainforest that stands out is the Choco rainforest. The Choco rainforest is home to a variety of endemic plant, bird, and mammal species.
Within the Choco rainforest is the Mashpi Lodge. Mashpi Lodge is an exhibition hotel that sits on a scenic plateau, showcasing breathtaking views of the surrounding forested mountains.
Mashpi Lodge is also involved in preserving the rainforest's natural habitat by conducting research that has discovered new species.
Visiting the Mashpi Lodge and exploring the Galapagos Islands were a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Let us show you why they should be on your travel bucket list.
Did you write down all the Big 15? If not, don't worry, because in a little bit, we'll show you some more of them in this episode.
But the Galapagos aren't the only place within Ecuador where you can see some pretty exotic wildlife. On our trip to Ecuador, we had the privilege of staying at the Mashpi Lodge, where we got up close to some of that wildlife. And we mean close.
When we heard that we were going to Ecuador, we didn't realize how much wildlife we would be experiencing outside of the Galapagos Islands. But we will say the wildlife encounters on the mainland were just as abundant as the wildlife encounters on the islands.
Yep, Mashpi Lodge is a very special place, as you're about to see. Check it out.
To us, Mashpi Lodge seemed like the perfect way for anyone to experience a rainforest. A lot of the reason why is because of its location being in the Choco rainforest.
Yes, Mashpi Lodge itself is an amazing, beautiful building that sits on a scenic plateau, showcasing breathtaking views of the surrounding forested mountains.
Our first day arriving at Mashpi, we first got settled into the room we would get to enjoy for the next couple of nights. What stood out right away of the great features of the room was the unbelievable view.
After getting past our shock and awe of the room, it was time for our first Mashpi adventure. Before we continued, for those of you like me, I want to address a very important question when preparing for this trip. The first thing that came to mind was what to wear in the rainforest.
Message! The climate of this part of the Choco rainforest is warm and not surprising, being that it is a rainforest extremely wet.
So considering you're going to want to wear a dark or earth tone long sleeve tee or expedition shirt, dark or earth tone lightweight pants, preferably ones meant for for wet conditions, breathable, moisture-proof socks to keep your feet dry, comfortable hiking boots to keep your feet comfy, and a hat to keep the sun out of your eyes. Of course, everything has to be cute.
On the practical side, we most definitely recommend sunblock, a dry bag, a headlamp or flashlight, and a light jacket would not hurt.
Now, where were we? We met up with our naturalist guides who would be leading us on our adventures.
Our first hike wasn't too far from the lodge, as pretty quickly we came upon one of the main attractions of Mashpee, the Sky Bike, a two-person bike on a cable stretching 655 feet across a gorge above a flowing river.
For many, the Sky Bike is an exciting way to explore the forest canopy up close, but for me, it was a bit intimidating.
But see, here's the thing about travel. Of its many benefits, one of the dopest is that its ability to give us more than the usual courage. All of the usual reservations get lost amongst the magic and excitement.
This is so true. It's been many times during our travels when I pushed myself out of my comfort zone and did things that I never imagined myself doing. So just like kayaking on the Puget Sound or ziplining through the jungles of Belize, the Sky Bike was another one of those life-changing, fear-conquering experiences, all thanks to travel.
Message! So the Sky Bikes are designed for two people to use at once. With one person pedaling the bike, the ride is down and back. So that means one person pedals down and one person pedals back. But not for us. Nope. Unfortunately for me, while Marley was bought into conquering her fears, she wasn't bought into pedaling. So I had to pedal us the whole 655 feet twice.
Sorry, babe, but even with a sore body, Aunt would still agree that the views and overall experience was amazing.
True, but
Right next to the Sky Bike was the Observation Tower, a metallic structure with a staircase that climbs to about 8 stories high, where guests are able to enjoy an exciting bird's eye view of the surrounding forest. We decided not to take the climb as I had my fill of fear conquering for the day.
And I was still hurting from carrying this 1,300 plus feet. After the hike to the Sky Bike, Mashpee wasn't done with the activities they had planned for us. We got to listen in on one of their night talks, led by Mashpee's resident biologist, who shared facts about the local wildlife, natural history of the region, ongoing research project, and conservation initiatives.
We definitely learned a lot, and it was a perfect way to end our first day. Our second day at Mashpee was jam-packed with amazing experiences because on that day we embarked on the long hike.
This hike was dope. Our naturalist guides led us through the forest, descending through the towering trees, amongst the orchids and giant ferns, eventually coming to a serene waterfall, where we took a break for a swim.
After the rejuvenating break, our hike continued along the riverbed, experiencing the wildlife and of course learning. Eventually we made our way to the next big attraction at Mashpee, the Dragonfly.
The Dragonfly is an open-air gondola that glides through the treetops at a relaxed pace, providing another spectacular bird's-eye view of the forest, waterfalls, and rivers. But probably one of the best things about the experience was just sitting back peacefully, immersing ourselves within the surrounding nature.
Our Dragonfly ride took about an hour. For me, the nature was definitely nice, but even more so was the Dragonfly cut our hike back down to more than half.
After we got back, we had a nice lunch and a little nap. Then we headed out on a shorter hike to the Life Center, a place built for learning and discovery, as well as a space for guests to relax.
Also at the Life Center is another one of Mashpee's popular attractions, the Butterfly House. Along with learning about butterflies, you get to experience these beautiful creatures up close, really up close. It was unbelievable.
The Butterfly House is home to some 200 species of friendly and active butterfly. After hanging out a while, we were ready to head back. It was the perfect time because the sun began to set, meaning it was time for the night hike.
The night hike was simply us hiking a trail back to the lodge at night. What's so special about this? Well, at night is when the animals are most active.
And it was the night hike where we experienced the most wildlife. Y'all probably can't see them on this film, but take our word for it. We seen bats, toads, snakes, and some more.
The night hike was yet another perfect ending to our day. Day 3 was our last day, and even though we were sad to be leaving, Mashpee had one more magical experience left for us.
On the way out, we stopped by one of Mashpee's last popular attractions that we yet to experience, the Hummingbird Viewpoint.
Located at a natural viewpoint, the shelter has seating and is surrounded by bird feeders. This was the ideal setting for experiencing hummingbirds, but I never dreamt that we would be feeding hummingbirds from our hand.
The forest is home to 32 identified hummingbird species, with around 19 species that have been observed by guests at the viewpoint. This was the perfect end to the trip to Mashpee. It was incredible. We enjoyed a comfortable stay, learned a lot, and of course, loved the abundance of nature.
We also have to mention the unbelievable food and cocktails at Mashpee. We wish this experience on everyone.
Wow, what did you think about the Mashpee Lodge? Is that someplace you can see yourself staying for a couple of days?
You know what? If you would have told me before visiting the Mashpi Lodge that I would be biking 80 feet in the air across an Ecuadorian rainforest, I would have never believed you. But I loved it.
Yeah, Marley, I am still proud of you for facing your fears. See, that's the thing about travel. It's amazing in the sense that not only can it connect us to others, but it can also show us sides of ourselves that we never imagined.
So true. And when we return, we're going to show you another experience that definitely changed our lives. And we know just by seeing it, it will at least change your mind if you never thought about visiting before. Stay tuned.
Hey y'all, it's time for TWB's Travel Flex. Each week we drop a travel tip to help make your adventure smoother and stress-free. Today's tip, research local customs before traveling abroad.
Now look, just like here in the States, every country has its own customs and ways of doing things. And if you're new to that spot, chances are you won't know all of the unwritten rules.
That's why we say take a few minutes and look into those local customs and etiquette before you pack your bags. Trust me, it could save you from accidentally offending someone or making a cultural misstep.
Plus, it's not just about respect. It can also save you some cash. Like, if I had checked out the golf cart rental prices before our trip to Isla Mujeres, Mexico, I wouldn't have paid triple the price. Lesson learned.
Exactly, so learn from us, do your homework, and hopefully you won't make the same mistakes. That's it for this week's TWB Travel Flex.
Welcome back. Now it's time for the main event of Ecuador, the iconic Galapagos Islands.
Yes, iconic. The home of giant tortoises, prehistoric-sized iguanas, and a lot of boobies, from red-footed, blue-footed, and Nazca boobies.
Yes. And on this trip, we saw it all. It was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and we did not take it for granted.
And if you're wondering how you would even get to the Galapagos Islands, don't worry, because in this segment, you'll see a great option if ever you wanted to go yourself.
Beyond the island's unparalleled natural beauty, an opportunity to experience unique wildlife up close, the Galapagos Islands also have a connection to a major scientific contribution.
On September 17, 1835, a 22-year-old Charles Darwin visited the Galapagos Islands, a part of his voyage aboard the HMS Beagle. Although the main purpose of the voyage was to chart South American coastlines, as an amateur geologist, Darwin was presented a unique opportunity to study geology and natural history on the island.
During his time in the Galapagos, Darwin encountered an astonishing variety of wildlife and also observed variations in species from one island to another, particularly among the island's tortoises and finches. These observations would be critical in developing his revolutionary theory of evolution by natural selection.
Thanks to the Galapagos Islands acting as somewhat of a living laboratory, Darwin would go on to publish On the Origin of Species in 1859, and by doing so, advancing a view of the development of life on Earth that profoundly shaped nearly all biological and much philosophical thought which followed.
As you can see, there are many reasons why the Galapagos Islands are beloved and held in special regard, and no wonder why many prospective visitors view it as a once-in-a-lifetime adventure.
But it's also the reason Ecuador makes such a concerted effort towards conservation of the area, like establishing research centers dedicated to protecting and preserving local species, requiring visits to certain islands be accompanied by a park ranger or certified guide, and even limiting the number of tour companies allowed to operate within the area.
Lucky for us, we were able to find one of those tour companies. After booking our trip with said tour company and having brushed up on our knowledge of the Galapagos, we were super excited to take our very first and what would probably be our only journey to the majestic archipelago that time left untouched.
After the break, be sure to come back to see the rest of our experience on the Galapagos Islands.
Also, we'll be showing pictures sent in of you traveling while black and of course our comfort ratings for all of the places we visited in Ecuador. There is more than one way to explore the Galapagos Islands, but what seemed like the best way to us was to hop on a cruise ship and sail from island to island.
The first thing that stood out about the Galapagos Islands was the fact that just pictures don't do it justice. I mean, it was more beautiful in real life.
Yep, everything was as expected. Right off the bat, we had our first encounter with the local wildlife. It was surreal seeing a sea lion just napping under a bench.
Seeing the close-up of the snoozing sea lion was just a tip of the iceberg for the crazy, awesome experience we were about to have.
The first day after leaving Baltra and getting settled on the Santa Cruz 2, we headed to Mosquera Island and disembarked. There we walked along the beach that was filled with colonies of sea lions.
The one sea lion on the pier was just a drop in the bucket compared to the multitude of sea lions we would see on the beach. Along with the sea lions, we saw crabs, frigate birds, and some iguanas.
While waiting for the return of the dinghies that would carry us back to the ship, we were able to catch a beautiful sunset. This was the perfect cap to the first day of our journey.
On day 2, we arrived at San Cristobal Island, where we had traveled to during the night. Feeling like a champion, we chose to embark on the more challenging hike offered.
Yeah, you can say we felt like a champion, but what really motivated us to take the 3-mile inland hike from our disembarking spot was getting to a natural area for giant Galapagos tortoises.
We can't lie, the hike was hard, it was hot, and the landscape was reminiscent of a desert. But when we started coming across giant Galapagos tortoises just existing in their natural habitat, we can say the hike was worth it.
We probably saw about 8 tortoises total, and considering that we were standing on the very first island Charles Darwin landed on in 1835, it made it even more surreal seeing the iconic creatures he first encountered.
After spending some time with the tortoises, we hiked back to the dinghy, making the trek 6 miles round trip. You know, we really wanted to see those tortoises because I never thought I would hike 6 miles in the heat.
After a break and some lunch on the ship, we sailed to the other side of the island where we disembarked, hopped on some buses, and headed to the Cerro, Colorado to check out the Giant Tortoise Breeding Center.
The Cerro, Colorado Giant Tortoise Breeding Center was established in 2000 after a 1995 research study revealed that the tortoise population was stressed by feral cats.
As a result of the center's breeding efforts, the tortoise population has increased from 500 to 6,700. Pretty dope.
We were only at the end of day 2 and we already experienced a fair share of giant tortoises. We couldn't wait to see what day 3 was to bring.
On day 3, we were just halfway through our 6-day expedition. The plan for the morning was to hit Santa Fe Island. There, we would have the chance to see the Santa Fe land iguana, which is only found on that island.
As soon as we landed on Santa Fe, we were met by a colony of sea lions. Once on land, we hiked up the rocky terrain to see more local animals. We saw land iguanas, swallow-tailed gulls, and even the famous Darwin finch.
Along the way, we also learned some pretty interesting facts about the island and its local wildlife. Like, Santa Fe is the only island where the land iguana breeds with the marine iguana and creates a new hybrid species. Or, like frigates, fly through clouds, so to bathe.
Yes, it was a pretty eventful morning, but we weren't done. In the afternoon, we headed to South Plaza Island, an island that would make you believe that you were on another world.
Legend has it, this is the island that Steven Spielberg was visiting when he saw a giant tortoise and was then hit with the inspiration for his famous character, E.T.
There was not a dull moment on the rocky hike as the local wildlife was very active.
And we mean active. I mean, we even came across a pair of Nazca boobies getting it on.
With all the encounters with wildlife and the beautiful landscape of multiple islands, the journey so far had been amazing.
And to think, we were only on day 3.
Day 4 had quite the day planned.
We would be spending all of this day on the island of Santa Cruz. We first landed at Puerto Aurora, where we visited the Darwin Research Station Giant Tortoise Breeding Center, which is the headquarters of scientific investigation, conservation, and the National Park Administration.
During our visit, we toured the park and the museum. We learned of the ongoing efforts to restore and protect the local ecosystem, from battling invasive fruit flies to trying to increase tortoise populations, and of course, a lot of giant tortoises.
Including the dome-shaped tortoise that can get up to 700 pounds. But one of the most fascinating tortoises we learned about was the symbol of the national park, Lonesome George. Lonesome George was found as the world's last giant tortoise left on Pinta Island. George, who was brought to the park, would be the start of the center's reproduction program.
After the visit to the Darwin Research Station, we were off to the next activity planned. Some of us loaded onto vans to head to a local sugarcane farm where Ecuadorian moonshine was made. Others of us chose to ride a bike to the sugarcane farm.
Yep, this morning I was feeling like a champion because I chose to be among those who chose to ride the bike 2.5 miles to the farm. It was actually a great ride, even with it being a bit of a workout. But after the ride, getting to sample some of the moonshine on the farm was definitely a nice payoff.
After the moonshine, we headed to Rancho Manzillo, where we enjoyed a delicious lunch and then walked the farmer's field to see a bunch more wild giant tortoises just living in their natural state.
We really did enjoy our tortoise-filled day on Santa Cruz Island. But for day 5, we thought it'd be about time to try and get close to some ocean wildlife. So the activity we chose on day 5 was snorkeling off the beach of Gardner Bay on Espanola Island.
Gardner Bay is a beautiful beach with fine sand and littered with sleeping sea lions. As for the snorkeling, I wasn't really feeling it off the beach, which I thought would be easier for us being that we aren't experienced snorkelers, let alone strong swimmers.
Plus, the water that day wasn't very clear, so we really couldn't see any animals. But we did have some interesting encounters with some pesky mockingbirds that are endemic to Espanola Island and also a cantankerous sea lion.
Although we failed at snorkeling the day before, on day 6 we were determined to have a successful experience at least once, so we mustered up all the courage to do the deep water snorkeling excursion.
That morning, we departed on a dinghy around Santa Cruz Island and disembarked to snorkel along Eden Islet. This was a success as we actually saw some ocean wildlife.
It was a lot of fun, especially since this was me really stepping out of my comfort zone. We had so much fun that we signed up for the afternoon deep sea snorkeling excursion, which took place around North Seymour Island. With the currents being strong and the waves being choppy, we may have bit off more than we could chew.
Still, we had a blast while we were in the water. Thanks to even better visibility, we saw more wildlife and some pretty dope ones at that. Snorkeling all day was the perfect way to spend our last full day of the expedition.
Finally, on day 7, we packed our bags and said our goodbyes to the staff, crew, and guides and headed back to the mainland to board our flights back home. Looking back on our experience in the Galapagos, we had a blast.
Look, it's the Galapagos Islands. How can you not have fun? We can say that we did do a lot, and even though it did feel like a lot, we kept wanting to do more. Because like the captain said to us on the first day, statistically, this would be the only trip for most of us to the Galapagos.
So whether it was snorkeling in the pristine warm waters, experiencing the awe of the giant tortoise up close, or even getting chased by a sea lion, we had a lot of fun and made memories that would stay with us forever.
Wow. Like we mentioned before, that was a once-in-a-lifetime experience that we won't take for granted. The thing about the Galapagos Islands is, it's a bucket list destination for a lot of people.
Yes, and if you want to visit, the company we went with was great, and you can learn more about them actually on our YouTube channel. If this is your first time seeing us, as a reminder, we rate our destinations on how comfortable we feel as Black people visiting.
Obviously, that includes international. As you will see within this episode, we scoped our rating to each place individually, and you'll also see how that worked out.
Yes, and once again, we rated these destinations on our original scale. So there's an opportunity for us to return, and even better, you can go and rate them on our new scale.
But for now, check out how we rated all of our experiences on our most recent trip to Ecuador.
Now it's time for one of the most important elements of our show, our Comfortability for Black People rating.
Again, our trip to Ecuador was rated against our old 5-point scale. But again, that is just another excuse for us to go back.
Another important thing to note is that because our trip to Ecuador was covered across 3 episodes that can all be seen on our YouTube channel, Travel While Black, we rated each experience by themselves.
First, starting with Mashpee Lodge. Let's be truthful. Offering Black people to stay overnight in the middle of a jungle, guided by total strangers, and surrounded by exotic wildlife doesn't come off as sounding like a very comfortable experience.
But because we were hosted by Mashpee's friendly and welcoming staff, the experience was more comfortable than we could ever imagine. So for Mashpee's comfort rating, thanks to the hospitality, food, and the friendship, we gave a 5 out of 5.
Our experience on the Galapagos was pretty much the same. The friendly, hospitable hosts this time were the staff of the tour company. They were patient and made sure that everyone enjoyed their experiences.
In fact, this particular tour company informed us that they are aware that their clientele has been mostly of one demographic, but they are taking action and being intentional in attracting more diverse clients. Their awareness combined with our experience is why we give our Galapagos experience a 5 out of 5 for comfortability for Black people.
Yes, both Mashpee and Galapagos scored high in our comfort for Black people rating, but also a big contributing factor is the nature. Because for the people in the back,
Nature loves Black people.
What else we loved about our experience in Ecuador was that we got to learn more about Afro-Ecuadorians.
Most Afro-Ecuadorians are descendants of enslaved Africans brought to Ecuador by Spanish colonizers from the early 16th century.
Actually, the first group of enslaved Africans to arrive in Ecuador arrived in 1553 when a slave ship bound for Peru was stranded off the Ecuadorian coast. These Africans escaped and formed maroon settlements in Esmeraldas, which became a safe haven for those fleeing slavery.
Despite their historical significance, Afro-Ecuadorians have faced systematic racism and marginalization.
You can see more about this experience within our episode on the historic city of Quito at our YouTube channel. Yes, all in all, our experience in Ecuador was not only spectacular and life-changing, but also extremely comfortable. That's why we can definitely recommend it as a great destination for Black travelers.
There you have it. Our experience in Ecuador, exploring the Choco rainforest at the Mashpi Lodge, and the once-in-a-lifetime visit to the Galapagos made an experience that we can recommend to any Black traveler.
And we will note that Ecuador, like most places, does have some things to work on. And again, you can find out more about that within our keto episode on our YouTube channel. But now it's time to see where some of you are traveling while Black.
Our picture for this episode comes in from one of our longtime viewers, Stephen and his wife Tracy, at the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris, France. Yes, we love to see it. And be sure to send us your pictures traveling while Black.
Yes, it's super easy. Just go to our website, travelingwhileblackseattle.com, and submit pictures of yourself traveling while Black. Be sure to include your name and where you're traveling to. And in every episode, we will pick a handful of submissions to shout out during our segment, Where Are You Traveling While Black?
Wow, once again, y'all sent us some great pictures. Be sure to head to our website to submit pictures of you traveling while Black, and you might see yourself right here on the episode.
And always remember that you can dive deeper into our adventures by visiting our YouTube channel at Traveling While Black. And be sure to follow us on Instagram at TravelWhileBLK and TikTok at TravelingWhileBLK.
So that's it for this episode. We can't wait to see y'all next time. But until then, beautiful people, stay up, stay true, and do you.